Good morning. It's Monday, February 2nd, 9:24 a.m. in the morning. There's a lot going on. Today was Groundhog Day. Um, it's one of my favorite movies. I love that Bill Murray movie. Um, Puxatawny Phil did see his shadow, so he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Uh, it feels like Groundhog Day in the markets with natural gas. They're taking a big hit today over some warmer weather forecast, although the discount to the 5 year or the storage deficit to the 5 year average has gone negative here, and it's going to continue to increase. And, I think that people are worried that we had, significant production in increases into the end of 2025. I don't think that's going to play out here as production normalizes in 2026, but right now, fear is ruling the day. Um, uh, Groundhog Day. The second thing would be I've got the same shirt on. My daughter, my I've got one in college and I have one that's a senior in high school. Before she was leaving, she said, "You can't wear the same shirt." And it made me laugh because you guys know I love basketball. It's a hoodie. It's a Task hoodie. I like this hoodie, as I had in my same podcast. But I love basketball, and NBC has got the NBA back this year, and they're doing this interview series with Michael Jordan. But what they did is they did one long interview where Mike Tirico went down to Michael Jordan's residence in Jupiter, and they recorded this interview and they've spliced it up and segmented it. So Charles Barkley made a funny observation. He said, they're playing it throughout the year, but if you look, he's got the same shirt, the same clothing on. So, I it's a different day, 2 days away, but I still got my hoodie on. So, uh, speaking of uh, daylight days, we're actually gaining like 2 minutes and 30 seconds here in Indiana in daylight per day the next 28 days here. So until I looked this up, I always thought it was like a minute per day. But you can feel, even though it's very cold, you can feel that things are changing in terms of the amount of day or daylight in the day. So it's a little my little factoid of the day. We're going to jump in. I've got some things I want to talk about, and I'm trying to get back into a regular routine doing these podcasts. But the price signals in the market have been wild. I mean, just watching silver prices since the futures opened last night, gold prices, crypto prices, um, the equity market futures. There's been a lot of volatility. I think that's going to continue to be the case. There's macro events that are going on. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, the gold, silver, crypto, the melt up and the unwind. Steve Hu on Twitter had this post. I wanted just to read it out loud and think about it or plant a seed. But he says, I think the whole story is literally Russia invaded Ukraine, U.S. froze Russian assets. I don't believe all this, by the way, but it was an interesting take. China started buying gold. Gold went up. Investors see gold going up and heard the narrative start. Then they started chasing. At some point, someone started asking, gold's already up. What else is like gold? Silver and platinum. Let's chase those too. This ignores the capital cycle, but it's an interesting take because of the speculative influence. Then he continues and he said, and then the rare earth China thing happened, and AI created energy demand for copper and lithium. Before you know it, it feels like there's a bid for every metal on the periodic table. All the crypto traders are degenerate gamblers who have no belief in anything other than the price chart, which is true of all market technicians, from everybody I've ever known, from Connie Brown to George Ferris, and I saw Connie Brown at the Willis Tower in Chicago for a chartered market technician meeting a while back. But anyway, so he says, the guys that have no belief in anything other than the price chart, suddenly they see things are going up. So crypto's abandoned in favor of the silver, gold, and platinum. It's all the same thing anyway. Numbers go up. That's it. There's nothing to do with the debasement or hyperinflation. It's just degen speculation. Not saying there isn't fundamentals. So that was an interesting take. Again, I don't agree with all of it because it ignores the capital cycle. And they're, for example, gold and silver previously topped in 2011. The miners underwent a long bear market. And even now, Newmont was 85 with gold at 2000, 2022. Newmont's come down, but it's not much higher, with gold more than doubling in price. So anyway, an interesting take. Continuing, my second point for today is I actually saw this morning, the morning or Masters MSTR MicroStrategy, which is now just strategy. They bought some more Bitcoin here recently, but as of yesterday, before the disclosure, and they just bought a little bit today, they held 712,647 Bitcoins at an average price of $76,307. So on Sunday and even overnight at some points, they were actually underwater, which is hard to believe because how early Michael Saylor was in advocating Bitcoin, but because they've been buying on the way up, it reminds me of the ARC, with Kathy Wood, where a lot of money coming in at the top. And so ultimately investors lost a lot of money. It was, money chasing at the higher price and not when she had a period of outperformance. So this has actually happened in 2022 with strategy, and they basically halted their purchases of Bitcoin and only purchased 10,000 in 2022, which is ironically, I think, what they added this morning, or was this closed today. MicroStrategy, MSTR strategy is trading below their net asset value. So the discount is going to prevent them from issuing shares to buy Bitcoin. They have $2 billion in cash. However, they have a substantial preferred dividend obligation, so they could sell stock to meet that. But it's going to be interesting what happens going forward. Through Friday, the MicroStrategy stock was down 1.5% year to date, down 55.4% over the last year, up 510.3% over the last 3 years, and up 158.9% over the last 5 years. So that's again, it's going to be interesting how that plays out because you have a lot of holders of Bitcoin that are in these investment vehicles, strategy being one of them. Most of those are underwater now. There's different calculations out there. So what does this do to the price? We're going to find out. The third thing I want to talk about today was the AI bear case. And this was another, I retweeted this on my Twitter, but what I captioned in my notes here says, on Patrick Kashani's podcast, Baker laid out the threat to decentralized cloud inference. In 3 years, you'll be able to run a pruned down version of something like Gemini 5 on your phone, and that's essentially free. He called Edge AI by far the most plausible and scariest bear case for the hyperscale compute demand. His timeline was 3 years, but now people are speculating that's already happening today. So another thing, I think AI is a bubble. I think it's very similar to the dot-com and telecom bubble in the late 1990s, where a lot of capital was overcommitted. And ultimately, when that unwound, my example I always like to use is Amazon, which was a huge winner out of that. But during 2000, from their peak to their bottom, they dropped 94%. So, you got to be prepared for volatility there. We've seen that with a lot of stocks. Oracle's down a lot. They actually came out and said they're going to raise equity and debt here today, and it supported the stock somewhat in the pre-market. So, be interesting to see if the AI bear case plays out. Just something to keep your tabs on. Next thing, I did the FAM DCA buys. This is for my cousin's portfolio. I've been doing it since October of 2021. I took a pause. Excuse me, I'm taking a sip of my tea. I took a pause since August because I just was paralyzed by the price action, frankly, in the markets. And there's a lot of things I want to buy, and there's new purchases on there, a couple older ones. Liquid Implied I bought again. I know there's a $12 offer out for the company. I think that undervalues them. They signed a 6-month NDA to kind of have the acquiring offering company do due diligence. I think if they get acquired, it's going to be closer to $20 per share is my estimate or guess. I don't know if that'll be correct. Cleveland Cliffs I bought again. Steel prices have come up, along with a lot of base metal prices. Met coal prices have come up too. We've had big winners with U.S. Steel, which got acquired, and then ArcelorMittal. So Cleveland Cliffs is kind of our play here right now. very controversial because of the CEO. But there's been consolidation in the steel industry, including at Cleveland Cliffs the last 5 years. If the steel market really turns up, I think the earnings dynamics and the ability to generate earnings and cash flow are underappreciated here. Cracker Barrel, we've bought this in the past. It's way down. Big Laurie Holdings, which is that Buffett protege. He's got a position in the stock. I like it here. I think it's undervalued. I know, again, the branding has turned off people. Restoration Hardware, or it's just called RH. We bought that again. We bought that previously. They seem to be, they bought a lot of stock back, I think in the 330 range, and the CEO bought pretty close to here. But they seem to be turning the corner on the earnings front, and lower interest rates might help the housing market, which would spur. They're still anchored to the furniture market, even though they've expanded in other areas like the restaurants and galleries, and home rentals and yachts. But furniture is still the underpinning, for their push to become the first American luxury brand, as their CEO likes to advocate. PayPal, we've been talking about this for a long time. I've had a tracking position for a long time. I'm starting to actually accumulate more. It's a good discussion in our group. Michael Burris talked about these payment providers recently. People like Four, there's other ones that are interesting too. K has one. There's some discussion, but you can read that dialogue. But I chose PayPal. LyondellBasell. I bought that. That's another one we've been talking about for a while. A Team. This is one of the software companies that Chillers has brought up, and some others have brought up how Gabriel Gringo's brought it up too. How the software companies have really come down. I looked at quite a few of these before making the purchases. ServiceNow was right up there. SAP was up there. I just chose Team to kind of go in. KOS, which is the oil and gas producer, heavily leveraged, but they have are targeting $50 break even on the oil side, which we've flirted with that, the $50 oil range. I think they're going to be able to deleverage here, especially with the positive price action in natural gas, transfer enterprise value from debt to equity. But that is not for people who are risk averse. That's high risk, high reward. JD, we've had a lot of success with Baba. JD hasn't really moved. It's got a lot of cash on the balance sheet. It's optically cheap. I like it. And then XIFR, that was formerly the New Era Energy spinoff that was a distribution play. They've cut the distributions. They're internally funding. I think the fair value is like $35 a share or higher. So I bought that in the DCA portfolio. So I thought about buying Pantheon again because it's one of the larger positions in the DCA portfolio by dollar cost average. Obviously, it hasn't worked. It's very cheap. Another one I thought about was Mara Holdings, which is the Bitcoin miner. They hold a lot of Bitcoin stock. Or Bitcoins, but they're also a play on the AI data centers because they have secured power capacity. And, so I think that's an interesting one here because you can get, at some point, the cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin will be oversold, bounce, and you get a backdoor play on power access, to the AI data centers. And Mara has a unique position in Europe with that too. So just something to keep in mind. I bought some Mara last night personally just to establish a position around 865. Technically, it may go down as low as 5, and we don't know what will happen with the, if there's really an unwind in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market. You don't know where the floor is, but it's an interesting play. It's down a lot. So grateful for all in the group. The price action is exhilarating, in the markets. Doing these recaps, writing. I got away from it just because I wanted to clear my mind, but it actually, when you go through these and look at the opportunities, that gives me some balance and focus too. So I think I'm going to at least right now I'm on a research kick, and I've got some research to catch up on. But as part of that, I think I'm going to have a series here where I'm doing these podcasts, at least right now, for February. So hopefully everybody is getting a thaw in the colder weather. It's supposed to get up to 31 here today, not quite above freezing, but and I don't think it's going to get colder the next few days. But you can feel with the daylight starting to increase. You can feel the end of winter is coming. So looking forward to that. It's been real cold here, and so thankful, grateful for all in the group. Hopefully you guys have a good Groundhog Day and a good start to the week. Take care.